Good morning. If you would please introduce yourself to our audience, and if you could please tell us a little bit about your history working in the San Marcos Unified School District.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Campbell. I am your current acting superintendent for SMUSD. I've had a long tenure with the district. I was principal of San Marcos High School, principal of San Marcos Middle School, in addition to being an assistant principal at San Marcos High School when I first came. This is my 15th, maybe 16th, but definitely 15th year in the district. And it has been a long and great partnership that I've had with the district.
What are your plans and goals as you are in the position of acting superintendent?
Well, as acting superintendent, I am here for a temporary time. My current role or my other job is assistant superintendent of instructional services. And that really is the bread and butter of what I do, is ensuring that we have a strong instructional program for the district. As I move through this short time that I will have as acting superintendent, my goal really is to communicate with our staff as well as with our community to ensure that we have some stability as we move through as we move through this time period, recognizing that we are soon to be implementing our reopening plans for school. So it's my goal that I can lead us through that pretty well. That's my goal.
If San Diego County increases restrictions due to a rise in COVID-19 cases, or also known as the purple tier or phase 2, how will this impact San Marcos Unified School District's plan for returning to campus, as well as the timing of that? In addition, what are the district's plans for allowing students to return to campus safely?
Well, we just had that scare. We were pretty certain, the county was pretty certain that we were going to be moved into the purple phase, which is one below red and makes for a more restrictive environment within our county. So if that were to happen, schools that had not started their reopening would not be able to reopen until the county had been in the red for an additional 3 weeks, plus 14 days after we had made it into the red. So that would have put our reopening plans a bit on hold, only in terms of our plan is to bring our elementary school students back. Soft opening either October 12th or October 19th. That would have moved us back to the earliest that we could have started was October 28th. Fortunately, that has not happened. So we continue to be in the red and our reopening plans continue to move forward. So we have a lot of safety mitigation plans in place in order to allow our students to get back to campus as need be. I'm talking to the high school, so I will talk about our secondary plans. When you get to school, you will notice that there will be one-way signs, there will be social distancing signs. We will be requiring you to be social distanced in your classrooms. You'll have partitions that you will have with you, so that it's a partition that goes on top of your desk. You will be required to wear a mask. When you are out and about, you will still be required to socially distance. Obviously, you won't have to social distance at lunch, but you will need to be 6 feet apart when you are having your lunch. You will see increased supervision around to make sure that our students are actually following our social distancing guidelines. Our goal really is to keep our students as safe as possible, to follow all of the safety mitigation practices that we know are working in our county. And we are asking our students to help us with that, because as our students are helping with socially distance, wearing their mask when they're supposed to, washing their hands frequently, that means that you will be able to be in school. When those things are not happening, that is when we have the potential of having to yo-yo back into remote instruction because of an outbreak. So I think we will all be working together to make sure that our safety practices are happening both with students and with staff.
What's your opinion on how distance learning is impacting students' education at this point in time?
Distance learning is hard. It's hard. I have a 7th grader And I see her, she's at San Marcos Middle School, so I know firsthand that distance learning is hard. I think from a positive standpoint, what we experienced in our emergency distance learning when we first left in the spring, what we have now, we have a much more robust remote instruction schedule as well as remote instruction learning. I think we are definitely much better than we were. Remote instruction, however, is just that, remote instruction. There are things that you cannot get from remote instruction that you can only get from being in a classroom. When you are on video, it's very difficult for a teacher to read the room. It's super difficult for the teacher to read the room. If our students don't have their cameras on, that makes things more difficult. I can speak from experience in watching my daughter. If she doesn't have her camera on and she is more distracted. She has things that are next to her. So yes, I'm listening to the teacher, but oh, I have my cell phone right here. It's just different, and it's a lot more, it's a lot easier to get distracted. The other piece of that is learning is it's a social function. Yes, you can read. Yes, you can do assignments. Yes, you can study. But it is different when you are in a classroom, in a group with other students. You are learning from other students. You are hearing directly from other students. So distance learning will never be able to replace in-class learning. With that said, I think where we are with our distance learning / remote instruction now is much better than we used to be in the past.
How is the district adjusting curriculum and teaching methods in order to support student learning through a distance program?
So I think we have worked with our teachers to support distance learning in a few ways. Before school started, we had 3 days of professional development to help our teachers really get used to the technology piece of distance learning. We moved from Google Meets as a platform now to Zoom as a platform, so really kind of helping our teachers to understand that. We have worked with them a lot with getting used to not only the new technology platforms, but in secondary in particular, the new schedule that we have. You know, we've gone from a 1 through 6 period day to now a three by three at the middle school and a 4 by 4 at the high school. That is a very different instructional model than what our teachers and quite frankly our students are used to. The positive of the 3 by 3 and the 4 by 4 is it allows our teachers and our students to have a concentrated amount of time to work on a limited amount of subjects. A lot of the feedback we got back from our spring distance learning was that it was really difficult for students to manage 6 periods a day and 6 periods online a day. It was difficult. So the fact now that we're able to have a block schedule and really limit the amount of classes that kids have, it's definitely a plus. With that, however, our teachers have had to learn a different way of instructing. An 80-minute block is very different than a 50-minute period. Also, this idea of being able to calibrate the instruction, how much live time do I have in front of the screen with my kids, and how much time do I give kids to work on pen and paper assignments away from the screen. It really is a dance with distance learning and virtual learning in how much screen time is the right amount of screen time, how much live instruction versus asynchronous instruction is the right amount. So really working with our teachers on that has been an ongoing project for us as we move through our instructional program at the district.
When it comes to students who need additional learning support, how is the district helping those students and giving them the additional support that they might need?
So we continue to have intervention or remediation for our students who are most in need. We also have our unique student populations, our English language learners, our students with IEPs who get additional support. That additional support may come from their case managers, it may come from EL coordinators, it may come from additional support from personalized learning with their instruction. So we have use of Rosetta Stone that we use for our English learners, just that sort of thing. We also have the opportunity to use the 30-minute advisory period to help our students in special populations get some additional help from the teachers that they need help with. The other part of that is that we have started to move into bringing small cohorts of students back onto our campuses, those students who are most in need. Our schools are identifying students that either are having difficulty with remote instruction. We have noticed that they're having difficulty with engaging in remote instruction. Maybe students who are having difficulty with internet connection. And so small groups we're bringing to help support them in their distance learning. And then the other piece of that is also small groups of students coming onto campus so that we can help them with specific instructional needs. For example, bringing our English learners together so that we can give them more intensive ELD on a campus in person in a small group setting. All of this with bringing kids back on campus, again, we have to be super careful in, are we making sure that our groups of kids, our cohorts of kids are small, that they are socially distanced, that they are fully masked, and that they're a stable cohort. So what we don't want is different groups of kids coming at different, rotating through different teachers. We really want a stable cohort of the same group of kids with the same supervisor so that we can limit that number of contacts that both our students and our adults have as we're helping them through their instructional program.
Continuing with the discussion of English learners, we do have a large number of students in our district that are English learners. How is the district supporting the learning of those students, and how is it different from the previous learning environment? Awesome. Going along with English learners, how is that different from the previous learning environment for them? And how is the new format of our schooling affecting that, but also supporting them in their learning?
So I think English learners in particular, it's very difficult to be an English learner through distance learning. Part of the issue with language acquisition is that students really need, I talked before about learning is social. With language acquisition, our students need to practice the language, one, and they also need to have models of the English language. So when you are not in a class where you are having models of the language, it becomes that much more difficult to make progress. It also becomes easier if you are an English language learner to turn off your camera and not engage. So if you are in a classroom in person, your teacher can call on you and you are kind of forced to answer, or there is a bit more pressure to answer. If you are in a small group, there is more, you in person when you are in a small group than when you are on a screen in distance. So that piece of that socialization piece with our English learners and language acquisition is hugely important. With that said, our English language coordinators, our ELD coordinators, are really working hard to develop some processes to help our English learners. We did do a bit of a summer program with our English learners to really help to give them a jump start over the summer as we moved into distance learning. Again, we are working with our English learners in small groups for their designated ELD, meaning a specific amount of time focused solely on their language acquisition, which is different than, that is about learning the language, which is different than integrated ELD. So you will have English learners who are integrated in all of your classes, and our teachers work on providing learning strategies or instructional strategies to help our English learners bridge the gap. So yes, I am in an integrated English class, or I'm in an integrated history class, but there's a bit more support with vocabulary for our English language learners. And so that's kind of a piece where we're helping with both their integrated ELD and their designated ELD, and really trying to overcome the deficits that they have by not being in an in-class environment.
What advice do you have for students as we continue to move forward with distance learning?
So with distance learning, I think there are a couple of things. And my first one is going to sound like a mom and probably sound like a teacher. Turn your screen on. And I say turn your screen on because I have to tell myself to turn my screen on. It's so easy to get distracted when your screen is not on. It's super helpful just in your own focus to have the screen on. I also think you have to know yourself and recognize that if you need a screen break, I think it's okay for you to take a screen break. Now, taking a screen break doesn't mean, oh, I'm taking a break from third period. That means, if I need to, while my eyes are really strained, it's okay to turn your screen off for a minute. And I would say keep up, keep up, keep up. Particularly with the 3x3 and the 4x4, I've seen it with my own daughter. Of It's very easy when you don't have a structured environment to not think about your homework or not to think about the other classwork that you have to do. And that gets you behind. And particularly in a 3x3 and a 4x4, where time is of the essence and everything is compacted into one term, you can't afford to get behind. You can't afford to miss a day of homework, or you can't afford to miss a day of instruction, because the clock is always moving. The content is always coming. So the more that you can stay on top of your studies, I would say the better it is and the more successful that you will be. And self-care, take care of yourself. um, Distance learning is not just about distance learning. We are in distance learning because we are in a pandemic. The social emotional part of this piece is real. The more that you can make connections, even if they are virtual connections, staying connected to your friends, to your family, is super duper important. It becomes really easy to sit in a room and watch a screen and then go from your virtual learning screen to your video games, to your cell phone. But the more that you can make connections and try to avoid this solitary nature that could come from distance learning and from being inside with this pandemic, the better. Take care of yourselves. Super important.
Is there anything else that you would like the community to know?
I think the, the most important thing I want our community to know is that, one, we understand that this is difficult. Distance learning, remote instruction is not where any of us want to be. I think we have done a good job and will continue to focus on high quality distance learning, high quality remote instruction, always with our eyes looking ahead to getting our students back on campus. The sooner we can get our kids back on campus, the better. I have said it before, however, I think it's also super important that when we make the leap back to in-person instruction, we have done so carefully. We have made sure that it is truly viable. We have made sure that we are going to have a stable and safe environment for our kids. So that we don't have the yo-yo effect of we're in for a week and something happened and we now have to go back into distance learning. So yes, so slow and steady is the race, certainly, but getting our kids back on campus in as quick amount of time as possible is our ultimate goal.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Campbell. I know that the students, staff, as well as the community really appreciate your willingness to step up as acting superintendent, and I know that we're all super grateful for all of your hard work that you've put in as acting superintendent.